Right, try this again. Manchester City finally win the Champions League last night. They were victorious in Istanbul against Inter Milan, 1-0 on the night, thanks to the only goal of the game coming from Rodri, the difference maker on the night. Pep Guardiola and Manchester City not only record their first Champions League title, knowing themselves finally as the kings of Europe after many attempts, many years of trying. Finally, they managed to do it. And not only, like I say, have they recorded their first Champions League title, but they have also done the treble. The treble is done, dusted, and completed, and a very infamous and historic season or campaign for Manchester City is in the record books. Pep Guardiola and Manchester City have managed to do something incredible. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video, or another live stream, should I say. Tonight, we're going to be talking and focusing on Manchester City, the fallout to obviously Manchester City's historic Champions League title triumph. We're going to be talking about the game. We're going to be talking about City, where they go from here, all that good stuff, and also a little bit of other stuff as well. We're going to talk a few transfers, a few rumours that are floating around. Anything that you guys want to talk about as well, do get involved in the comment section and all of that good stuff as well. That'd be all great to be considered. But like I always say, smash a like on the live stream. Subscribe if you're new or want us to see more content like this. Both things always and very greatly appreciated as always. Hey Ballum, nice to meet you, bro. Nice to see you back here, dude. Wave to the camera. Hello. Yes, good to see you, man. Love to know what you thought about last night's game. For me, City deserved it. City weren't at their scintillating best. I didn't think it was the greatest of cup finals, in all honesty. But as we sort of thought and predicted in the build-up to the game, we thought that City would have the strength and depth. We thought that City would have the better quality of moments, and we thought that City overall would have the edge in quality, the edge in depth, and it would eventually shine through as the game wore on. I thought Inter gave a good account for themselves. They were solid defensively. City really struggled to break them down, as we sort of predicted. But in the end, it was the quality in the attacking third that really put the game to bed. And it was one moment by City that obviously allowed Rodri, the man for the big occasions, really. Like I say, they have so many, well, I say that they have so many people for the big occasions, but Rodri, for me, for a CDM to continuously pop up with big goals every so often, it's a quality that you just can't shy away from. And of course, he was the hero on the night, scoring the only goal of the game. Rodri, I thought, was brilliant. Took a well-taken goal as well. A little bit harsh on Inter Milan, but you, again, like I say, you saw the difference in quality in the final third. Inter Milan had a couple of opportunities themselves in the final third that they just couldn't put away. Romelu Lukaku came on in the second half and had an absolute nightmare of a game. And then obviously you see at the other end, all it took was one moment from Rodri to really put the game to bed. Erling Haaland had a couple of opportunities that were missed. Martinez had an opportunity. Like I say, Lukaku had a couple. I think who had the header on the ball? Was it DeMarco? It might have been DeMarco. I can't remember now off the top of my head. But obviously, Inter hit the post. There was a few big chances in the game. I just thought City obviously had the edge, and that's obviously how it proved to be. And it was sort of unfortunate in a way for Inter, but at the same time, can't really complain with the outcome. Everyone was sort of expecting City to win, and there would be massive question marks if City didn't win. And there would be question marks whether this competition is completely cursed for Manchester City to actually obtain this trophy. And that's obviously how it would have proved to have been if they hadn't have won and had Inter obviously gone on to triumph in this. But as it happens, City win this competition for the first time in their history, and of course complete the famous treble. Obviously not done since Manchester United in 1999, as far as what an English team is to go by. And I think they're like the 10th or 11th team in Europe to obviously manage to obtain such an incredible record. So it's been a phenomenal season if you're Pep Guardiola or anyone associated with Manchester City. Were Manchester tired? Warm right, and if it was a June warm night, and if it was a June match, you could argue maybe tiredness crept in. You could argue that maybe playing I find that with some teams like a Man City that have gotten used to playing 2 or 3 games a week over the course of these past several years, they tend to keep their minds more fresh when it's like that. When they go to 1 game a week, that tends to slow them down a little bit and stops their momentum. That's what I often found with City. And I think that's why towards the end of the season, when they are playing those 2 to 3 games a week, I think it helps keep their minds and their kind of engine ticking over, so to speak. Once you obviously get to like this stage of the season where it's like 1 game a week, I think it can kind of slow down a little bit and can kind of halt their momentum a little bit. So it may have been a case of that, but obviously, like I say, City had the overall quality which we were expecting to see on the night anyway. No KDB in the second half, and they still won. Yeah, I mean, that just shows you the strength and depth of City. I remember several years ago when Liverpool were in the Champions League against Real Madrid, and obviously Salah came off, and we had Adam Lallana to throw on. Now, nothing against Adam Lallana completely, but when you consider the strength and depth of Manchester City in comparison to that Liverpool side years ago, you lose a key man in Salah and you bring on Lallana. City are there laughing, considering that they can lose Kevin De Bruyne and just throw on Phil Foden, can throw on a Riyad Mahrez, can throw on a Julian Alvarez, whoever it may be. City's strength and depth is utterly ridiculous, and that's obviously what we saw last night. And again, another factor, I believe, as to why City did go on to win the game last night. A Notts County match, who would be good if you're able to? Do you think Liverpool will get Dnipro in the Europa League? We'll have to wait and see on the Europa League. Obviously, there's a lot of possible outcomes for Liverpool. It'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting for the Europa League going forward, and even more interesting that the final is going to be held in Dublin, which is going to be a pretty mad occasion if obviously Liverpool are to get there. Lukaku helped Inter with more attacking presence. Should they have started him? He did, but he also was at fault for missing a number of good opportunities, or at least a good number of half-decent opportunities, should I say. It wasn't his best night. He had a bit of a nightmare when he came on. He offered them a bit more going forward, and maybe in hindsight, maybe he should have started, but at the same time, he did mess up a few times. Can't stay for too long. No problem, mate. Like I say, I appreciate you coming on and interacting, however long or however short it is. Inter Milan kits were nice. Scott Carson won Champions League twice in the same stadium. Yeah, Milan kits. I always like Milan kits, whether it's home or away. I remember, was it last year or a couple of years ago, they had that white strip with the kind of blue dragon. Was it like a blue dragon or blue snake on it or something? It's pretty nice kit. I do want to see if I can get that one myself, because it was a very nice kit. And yeah, Scott Carson, 2-time Champions League winner now. Mad to think he's still going, and mad to think he's at a club like Manchester City. Mad to think that he's actually got a Champions League winner's medal. But yeah, like, can't argue with facts. He's a 2-time Champions League winner. It's insane. It's insane to think that he's won this competition more times than anyone in that Man City squad currently. So bizarre, absolutely bizarre. But yeah, I thought City were good value for their win. City went on to obviously complete the infamous treble. People are going to start comparing it to the 1999 Manchester United squad that did the same thing. And look, I can't comment because I was only 3 years old when United won the treble in 1999. So I don't really have any real recollection of that squad, of that team. The only thing I have to go on is a bit of research, and from what people that were properly or memory-wise at least, recalling at that time have said. And All I can say is that both are fantastic achievements, and I don't think you can really compare the two. I think you could argue that obviously with inflation and everything, money was being thrown around back then, not as probably much as it is now, but that's obviously due to inflation and all that good stuff. So yeah, like there are going to be comparisons, and you're probably going to get like Talk Sport and more kind of sports shows, talk shows, kind of constantly compare the 1999 United squad with this current City squad, just for content, really, just for content purposes. Whether it's right or not to do so, I'm not 100% sure. Like I say, I can't really comment because I weren't really old enough to remember the 1999 squad. But it's still a fantastic achievement by both, and both should not be trampled on or disrespected just because one was in an earlier era and one is in the current era with a lot more money and a lot more of this and a lot more of that. And, you know, two different eras in which the game has moved on a lot since then. So obviously they'll compare it and they'll make comparisons of it. I'm not really going to do that. I'm just going to say that both achievements are fantastic. Both achievements are phenomenal. And I'll say, like, it's going to be interesting to see where the City squad goes from here. I've said numerous times that this isn't even the final form of Manchester City. What we are seeing is a City side in transition, and they're still building, which is mad to think and mad to say out loud, considering obviously what we've witnessed this season from Manchester City in terms of them winning their third Premier League title on the bounce, in terms of them winning the FA Cup, in terms of now them triumphing for the first time in the Champions League. It's mad to think that I'm going to say like they are still in transition, because I still think they can get even better and even scarier. Haaland didn't score, and some say he wasn't great. They won. Hey, if you can win a game of football, especially a final, in which your talisman, your star striker, the guy that's leading the line, doesn't score a goal. He had a couple of opportunities, but for the most part, Inter were very good in keeping him quiet. But you can still win that game. That shows you what a strong squad you've got, and you don't need to rely on just one man particularly. And let's face it, if it did get to 0-0 with 80 minutes and Haaland wasn't doing great, like I said earlier, their strength and depth is utterly ridiculous. They just throw Julian Alvarez on, and he probably would have got the winner. So it doesn't matter. Haaland is smiling. He's not going to worry too much about him playing poorly, because at the end of the day, he's still got a Champions League winners medal. He's still been fantastic in this competition as a whole. Do you think Lionel Messi was... when Argentina won the Copa America, do you think Messi was worried that he didn't really play that well in the Copa America final for Argentina a couple of years ago? Nah, of course not. Of course not. But yeah, like I was saying, Haaland, Manchester City, the whole squad as a whole is still in transition. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens this summer with incomings and outgoings, especially when you consider that Pep likes to keep things fresh. And there might be some changes this summer. There might be some players that maybe you didn't think maybe leaving City that actually go on and do leave City. And then you may be getting players that you didn't think would be linked with City going to City. I think there's still going to be a fair bit of change. And like I say, there is still going to be a bit of transition in keeping things fresh, because ultimately that's what Pep loves to do. He likes to keep things fresh because he said himself, if you want to keep a squad motivated, if you want to keep a squad going to that next level, if you want to keep a squad ticking over, you've got to keep it fresh. There can be no room for sentimentality, and Pep will do that 100%. So this summer, you might see the likes of Bernardo Silva leave. You might see, I don't know, maybe a Nathan Ake leave. Gundogan obviously seemingly on his way out of City right now due to obviously his contract expiring. He may feel like his time has come and he's achieved everything that he wants to achieve, and that he may want a different challenge elsewhere. You might see a Riyad Mahrez leave. There were talks, I think, over the past couple of days that maybe Saudi Arabia some team in Saudi Arabia are looking to swoop in for another top player. So there is a lot of there's a lot obviously to be considered with this squad as a whole. But like I say, still going through transition, still going to get better, still going to grow, still going to evolve. And Erling Haaland, especially, as I've said time and time again, that guy is going to get even scarier, even better. He's going to pick up a better understanding with his teammates. He's going to understand the type of players he's got around him, their abilities as well, whether to make a run in behind with the player that's on the ball or whether to come deep and drop a little deeper to link up play with the guy who's on the ball. It's going to be just working it out because Haaland could have got a lot more goals than what he's actually got. And that's mad to say considering he scored, 40 to 50 odd, somewhere between 40 and 50 goals this season. He can get even more. He's missed a few good chances this season that he could have got more goals on. And I feel like if his teammates maybe had found him, he could have got more as well. So Haaland's going to get scarier. The whole squad is going to get scarier. Like Guardiola's going to change some players. Guardiola's going to bring in some fresher faces that are going to be newer and hungrier and add something extra and something different to the squad than they already have. Guardiola's going to keep on thinking of ways to keep on being one step ahead of the game, one step ahead of his opponents. Just things like that just keep his mind ticking at night, thinking of football. Where do you go from here as a club that has obviously won the treble? Well, you go again. You try and do the same again next season. You maybe even go one step further and maybe go for the League Cup as well next season. Charity Shield, Super Cup. I assume they still do the Club World Cup thing. They could win everything next season. There's a possibility that this Man City squad goes on to dominate everything next season. Starting with the Community Shield, then going to the Super Cup, Club World Cup, League Cup, FA Cup, Premier League, Champions League. 7 trophies could be on the menu for Manchester City next season. And that for me is a very scary prospect. And that for me is something that obviously I think they're going to be looking at because they're going to be hungry for it. They're going to want to do it. And that's it. The game's done. The game is done. They've completed it. There's no bettering that. There's no topping that. Nothing. Will it happen? You wouldn't put it past this City squad. That's all I'm saying. You definitely would not put it past this City squad to go on and do that. You're correct. Their only disappointment is not winning the full quadruple. Yeah. Was it Southampton or West Ham that stopped them in that competition? I think it was West Ham, wasn't it? So we've got West Ham to thank for that. We've got West Ham to thank for stopping the quadruple because let's face it, if it weren't for West Ham, they might as well have won the quadruple, and that would have been very, very scary. And I say that as a Liverpool fan that obviously was in contention to win it only a year ago and then obviously faltered at the final couple of hurdles. Take care. Manchester have a good squad depth. City Football Group doing well. Take care, my friend. Nice of you to drop by and to interact. It was very good talking to you and you threw in some very good points there. And yeah, City squad depth is definitely scary, and it's only going to get scarier in my opinion, whether it's going to be through their academy. They started to bring through a couple of young players themselves, the likes of Cole Palmer and Rico Lewis. So that's only going to get better, you would imagine. Obviously, Phil Foden is the obvious one that stands out. But yeah, they're going to get scarier. And this Champions League is only going to, in my opinion, increase their hunger for more. More backing, more money invested, more change, more hunger, desire, motivation, more of Pep wanting to stay one step ahead of his opponents and everybody else. Like I say, this guy can take football to all new heights. And by all new heights, I basically mean end football in general. Like it's scary to think that this of what he could do with this Man City squad. Yes, there are of course some asterisks kind of factors to it because There are still 115 charges that are hanging over their heads. They've still got the Premier League investigation. They still might have other investigations open as well. We don't really know where this whole investigation is going to be properly leading to, or if it will lead anywhere. So there are still a few things that obviously off the pitch, City need to be a bit wary of and a bit careful of. But ultimately, look, I'm obviously, as football fans, we can't hold out and just hope that, City have broken rules, City have made mistakes, and that the Premier League will find them. In my opinion, I don't think the Premier League have the capabilities and the stature and or maybe not stature, but have the sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just the overall sort of coherentness to put together a sort of investigation into Manchester City. Like, if obviously they've broken the rules, fine. We'll deal with that when it is. But for now, we just have to wait. And I thought we would have heard a lot more about it since obviously the news broke several months ago, but we haven't really. Like, we've heard a little bit when they obviously won the Premier League and everyone was like talking about, hang on a minute, they've broken rules. Why are we not talking about this? And true, we should. But since then, we haven't really heard anything. And we knew that this was going to be a long process. But the whole point of them calling Manchester City out when they did was that obviously we thought they had something concrete on them, which it doesn't appear right now. We don't really know what that is. So we wait and see. Obviously, the summer is going to be very intriguing for City on and off the pitch. Obviously, like I say, we have to just assume right now that they are innocent until proven guilty. But yeah, I'm very intrigued. I'm very intrigued with City. I'm just very intrigued with Manchester City and how they're going to do business going forward. Like I say, Bernardo Silva's future, he's constantly linked with a move away from Manchester City, but you see how important he is season in, season out. But could this finally be the season in which Guardiola goes, you know what, I've took your best years out of you, you're free to leave. Riyad Mahrez, kind of been a backup player this season, been there for a few years now. Could this be the season that, of course, he leaves? And like I say, there were links today linking him with a move to Saudi Arabia, is what caught my eye. Maybe someone in the back line. I don't know. And Nathan Ake, for example. I know he's been brilliant this season, but maybe Pep thinks, again, maybe I've got the best years out of you. You're free to leave. Gundogan, maybe seeking a new challenge elsewhere, and Barcelona seems likely. Maybe he's going to go to Spain as a player that's been phenomenal for City, someone that's been a very underrated midfielder in the Premier League as a whole, and someone who has been truly phenomenal and has been a part of the big moments in Manchester City's recent history. Like, maybe, again, it's a case of him going and seeking a new challenge elsewhere in La Liga, a league and a club that he's never been to. Anyone else that you can probably think of that maybe could be on their way out? I know Julian Alvarez only just got there, but is he okay playing second fiddle to Erling Haaland? Does Pep have a bit of a plan to maybe accommodate both going forward? Alvarez, for me, is a fantastic talent. And I know that Bayern Munich are after a striker. I know that even Real Madrid are after a striker. So if they obviously hear rumblings that maybe Alvarez isn't entirely happy, but playing second fiddle to Haaland, it's possible they could turn their attention to him. Very possible. I doubt it. Obviously, we haven't heard any, or I haven't personally heard anything on that or saw anything on that. So it's possible. It's going to be very intriguing to me. It's going to be very intriguing to see how Pep keeps his team motivated, keeps his team fresh. And like I say, in a season in which many people predicted them to be going through a bit of a transition in terms of a new system, new formation, slightly modified way of playing, and of course, changing the roles in the team to have a more recognised number 9 up front in obviously Haaland. This City side still managed to achieve big number of points in the Premier League to obviously win the title, regain their throne and reclaim their crown and win 3 titles on the bounce. Win the FA Cup for the first time since 2019. And finally win the Champions League for the first time in their history. Finally win the Champions League. And in doing so, of course, complete the infamous treble. They are finally they're finally on the scoring board. They're finally on the scoring board in terms of Champions League titles. They have finally got on that pedestal. They have finally wrote their name in European history. They are European champions, Champions League winners for this season. Like I say, very much deserved overall. They were eventually going to win it. It was just a question of when rather than if. You could, yeah. Like I say, it's been a phenomenal season, and I can't get too excited about it. I can't get too happy about it because obviously it's a rival team at the end of the day. It's Manchester City, a team that I've called lottery winners, and they are to an extent lottery winners. But at the same time, I will always respect them, respect how they've gone about their business, because any team would love to have the investment and that, to have a kind of owner like that that's just going to pump money into their club no matter what. Respect them, respect what they've managed to achieve. They finally won it, but I do think it is going to be a little bit scary for those clubs going forward now, for clubs that are going to be coming up against City, whether it be in the league or whether it be in the Champions League, because Guardiola and City don't look like they're going to be slowing down anytime soon. And I feel like this could only push them on to more trophies, more Champions League titles, more Premier League titles, more this, more that, more the other. And like I say, next season, it's very much on for City to win all 7 trophies that they're going to be participating in. And that, for me, is a scary thought. It's going to be difficult for them. It's going to be very difficult for them to achieve it. But you do get the feeling that if anyone's going to achieve it, it's going to be this City side with Guardiola as the mastermind and the brains behind the operation. So, scary. Very scary. But at the same time, it could be possible. They could even go all 7 trophies and invincible at the same time. That's a scary thought. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating it. Maybe I'm thinking way ahead. Maybe I'm over-compensating it. I don't know. I don't personally believe it, per se, but I'm just saying I wouldn't be entirely shocked if it didn't happen. I don't think it will, because I think that may be too much of a stretch for anybody. But at the same time, if it was to actually happen, a phenomenal achievement it will be. But at the same time, I personally cannot see it. I just can't necessarily see it happening. But now that I've said that, it probably will. Either way, City, Champions League winners, fantastic achievement. Treble winners, phenomenal achievement. History makers, continuing to make history, continuing this phenomenal run with Pep Guardiola. And I, for one, am very intrigued to see what will happen going forward now. This summer's going to be big for the majority of teams, and especially with City continuing to paint a bigger and bigger target on their back. It's going to make for interesting viewing for a lot of teams that are going to be up against City, whether it be in Europe or whether it be in the Premier League. So it's going to be a big season for them. It's going to be a big season for Pep Guardiola in terms of obviously maintaining the hunger, the desire, the determination of his players to go again, even though they've pretty much done everything there is to now do at Manchester City. So it'll be interesting to see how he keeps his squad fresh, how he keeps his squad motivated. whether that means chopping and changing the squad, whether that means modifying the squad in some way. It's going to be very intriguing to obviously see that going forward. I'm just very intrigued overall with City. And obviously from the outside looking in, I can only say congratulations to them. Commiserations to Inter Milan, of course, for missing out and being runners-up of this competition. No one expected Inter Milan to get this far in the competition as a whole. So for them to get to the final is a big achievement in itself for them. Just unfortunate that, of course, they couldn't do the footballing world a favour and win the Champions League. But, City had the strength and depth. City had the overall quality, and City had the better moments. Better moment, you should say, that obviously put the game to bed and obviously won them their first Champions League title. Phenomenal. We wait and see what the future holds for Manchester City, for the rest of Europe, and for obviously the Premier League as a whole. But of course, as I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. This guy, I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of anything that I talked about in regards to Manchester City and the Champions League final that was played out last night in Istanbul, with City winning by a single goal to nil, thanks to Rodri being the hero on the night? I'd love to know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it on this particular topic down below in the comment section or wherever it is. Sure, it'll make for interesting and great reading. Otherwise, hit a like on the live stream. Also, subscribe if you're new. Both things always and very greatly appreciated. Thank you for everyone that stopped by tonight. Obviously, always great to interact with people, and always great to see people watching and everything. But yeah, it's been fun. And like I say, congratulations once again to Manchester City. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks live stream, and I'll see you speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be.